Primetime local news, serving the Lakeland and Midwest regions.
Hello and welcome to Primetime Local News. I'm Jackson Fontaine and thank you for joining me. Students at Mother Teresa Elementary are looking to give back to the community this year. In this week's Beyond the Classroom, we see how the school is ramping up for their annual Sobeys Donut Challenge.
Staff and students at Mother Teresa Elementary have been hard at work prepping for this year's Sprinkle Kindness and Spread Sweetness donut campaign. These students begin designing their donuts in class, and then Sobeys will then turn their designs into reality.
So today we're kind of kicking it off with our donut centers and our makerspace. So this is where the kids kind of get to just do some different donut games and donut crafts just to kind of get them excited and engaged. And then later on we're going to be starting to design our donut and picking where our money is going to go to, and that will kind of be the start of our project. Sprinkle
Kindness and Spread Sweetness has become a Lloydminster staple, with every year getting bigger and better than the last.
This is our 4th year doing our project, and so it's kind of just gotten bigger and bigger each year. Our goal for how much money we've raised has grown each year. Last year our goal was $10,000, and then this year now our goal is $12,000.
With the main goal being to raise money, the event also highlights the importance of being kind for the youth.
So this project is all about kindness and helping them connect to our community. So when we design our donut, we talk about different ways we can spread kindness, and not only in our school, but also around our community. So we're talking about different organizations that we can help. We talk about if we're gonna help people in our community or if we're helping animals in our community, and just getting them thinking of different ways that we can do that.
And that's all for this week's edition of Beyond the Classroom.
This is your classroom. Hands-on learning like you've never seen.
A Lloydminster man is encouraging people to take action after an experience he had at the local hospital. As Stacy Comer found out, issues with the CT scanner prolonged his treatment and could have had severe consequences.
I have a special guest joining me today on Primetime Local News. Austin Dyer is here. Austin recently had an experience at the Lloydminster Hospital that unfortunately we've been hearing many people have also experienced, and it's in regards to having a health problem and needing to use a CT scanner and it's not available. So Austin, first of all, thank you for joining me. And secondly, can you give me a little bit of a synopsis of what happened with you at the Lloyd Hospital and not being able to access the CT scanner when you were really, really sick and really needed to?
Yeah, you bet. Again, thanks for having me, Stacy, and for understanding how serious this problem and issue is for our community. So this is it dates back to November. I was in extreme pain the night of Saturday, November 23rd. And so I ended up admitting myself through emergency at the hospital just because I was having extreme pain in my lower right abdomen. And so I went in about 2 o'clock in the morning. So this now would be November 24th on the Sunday. And when I got to the hospital, I was in emergency, and the doctor came and assessed me and decided that I needed a CT scan to figure out what was going on because of the amount of pain that I was in. But he said that unfortunately they did not have CT services available on the weekend, and that I'd have to wait until Monday for that to happen. And so I was admitted into the hospital and waited until the next day. And if we go back to Saturday, November 23rd, there was a massive snowstorm that day. And so the conditions outside were not good. So travel was not recommended. And so if we go to the 24th, when I'm in all of this pain, and they had an idea of what might be going on, but obviously they can't do anything until they know exactly what the problem is. They deemed that I for sure needed to get a CT scan, and that I needed to be moved somewhere that would be able to do that. But because of the weather, they gave me 2 options. The options were to check myself out of the hospital against doctor's advice and get a family member or a friend to drive me to North Battleford to get a CT scan with the weather conditions, because ambulances weren't allowed to run because of the weather conditions, or that I could wait until ambulance could take me, or if it went long enough that I'd have to wait until the next day until CT services were available. So me and my wife kind of, went over the pros and cons of what we were doing. We decided that we didn't want to put anybody else at risk and having to drive in those conditions, especially if professional drivers weren't to be driving on those roads at that time. So they drugged me up, and I sat in the hospital until things cleared up a little bit. And then I was taken by ambulance to North Battleford, where I was given a CT scan. The CT scan showed that I was having an appendicitis, and that most likely that my appendix was for sure going to have to be removed. And so I was checked in the night of Saturday, November 23rd. I was ambulanced to North Battleford around 2 o'clock on Sunday, the 24th. And then I got back to Lloydminster Hospital the night of the 24th, where as soon as I arrived, the surgeons and their team were sitting there waiting for me to get there to be able to perform surgery to remove my appendix. And so then surgery went well. My appendix was removed. I was checked out of the hospital on Tuesday, November 26th. And my recovery didn't go as planned. I started to get into more and more pain as the week went on, which was the opposite of what the recovery was supposed to be. I was supposed to feel better each day as things were going. And so then finally, things kept getting worse on the 27th, the 28th. And then on the 29th, I was basically bedridden for most of the day, and I something was going on. And so then finally, the night of the 29th, which just so happened to be a Friday, I had to get somebody to come literally carry me to the hospital because I was in so much pain. Checked back into the emergency room. And when I got checked in, they instantly got me in because of the amount of pain that I was in. And when I met with the doctor there again, he was so frustrated that I didn't check myself in 10 to 12 hours earlier. And I didn't really understand his frustration because I had already went through it once, but I wasn't thinking about services that would need to be available. And he told me, he's like, we do not have CT after 4 o'clock on a Friday. He's like, so if you would have checked in the afternoon, we could have instantly done something. He's like, and now we have to wait until Monday. But after they found out like what I had already had done, the operation I had, they again ambulanced me to North Battleford again on Saturday the 30th, because they were worried that there was something serious going on from my previous surgery. And so went to North Battleford, and then now this time I waited in North Battleford for between 4 to 6 hours to get my CT scan. And then I had to wait for the doctor to come back in to assess the CT before they decided what to do. I was in the hospital for 7 of 10 days to have my appendix removed. And so the thought process around all of that was like, did I actually need to be in the hospital that long? If we had proper services provided, and if things could have, been expedited or done quickly, if we would have had the services, would I have had to have gone through all that?
We'll have more of Austin's story and other news after the break. As you saw in the first part of our newscast, Lloydminster resident Austin Dyer is advocating for change involving CT scanner staffing following an experience he had at the local hospital. Stacey Comer has more now with Austin and what he hopes will happen from sharing his story.
Now, Austin, you said you received some replies. I also inquired with the SHA before we did this interview just to see if anything has changed. My response was basically exactly what you said. I'll just read some of it here, is that they're committed to strengthening and stabilizing healthcare services in Lloydminster. Many jurisdictions across the country are recruiting for medical radiation technologies to fill vacancies. Recruitment efforts in Lloydminster include posting with additional advertisements, offering return for service bursaries, working with provincial partners to promote opportunities, and Saskatchewan's compensation rates for these specialties are competitive. Retirement in this field remains challenging, and they say at this time, CT services currently available in Lloydminster Monday to Friday from 8 o'clock until 4:30. They anticipate the return of permanent staff members to Lloydminster this month, which will help stabilize CT services. That's what they told me. Your response was basically the same that they sent you, and as you said, this has been an ongoing issue for much longer than a month. Are you happy with that response? Do you think it's adequate? Do you think that changes will be made immediately, or even within a month or so to get this back where it needs to be?
Not at all. I wasn't happy with any of the responses I received. I received 2 different phone calls. I received an email with a letter back. They referenced that this was only an issue in the month of December of 2024, which is completely false. When I was on the phone with one of the health ministers, he reiterated that money is not the issue and that there is money there for this. And so I asked, how come, again, he said everything was contractual, that they can't hire temporary staff because these techs are so sought after that nobody's going to take a temporary contract when they can get full-time work elsewhere. And so I just asked him, like, how come we aren't paying more then? Or how come we're not offering things that are going to attract to ensure that a temporary contract might be filled? And then he came back and just responded with that I didn't understand how contracts work and that they can't pay an absorbent amount because that's not sustainable. And so he basically backtracked on what he said, and that money is the issue because they aren't willing to pay more to have somebody come and do those things. The letter that I received back again prompted stuff about December only, when again my surgeries were in November, and so even just the responses didn't make any sense. And all of them did say you can feel comfort in the fact that there will be staff returning in January. And my responses to that was, I take no comfort in that because my emergencies were in November. And so if something would have happened to me, there is no comfort in January when staff is going to be returning. So all of that, and again, everybody that I talked to just said they're going to sweep it under the rug. They're going to try to just let it go away and then hope that their staff comes back and then they don't have to worry about it anymore. Well, what happens if our staff is young and just starting their families? Well, if they go on maternity leave again, is the SHA actually going to do something to ensure that we have proper care in our community? The amount of people that reached out to me after I wrote and sent out that letter, it's in double digits of people contacting me, thanking me. And then again, they want to tell their story because they either themselves went through the same situation or they've had family members. I've had 2 friends and colleagues contacted me this past week because over the Christmas break, they went through the same thing.
And what are you encouraging people to do at this point, Austin? What do you think needs to be done to try and make sure that there is a change to this situation at the hospital?
Yeah, if anybody has incurred the same situation or went through anything that's been the same, yes, it takes some time, but write a letter. It has to come from public advocacy that anything is going to change. So a letter needs to be sent to the SHA, to the Lloyd Hospital, to our premier, to all of those avenues that actually have the ability to be able to make change. And unless people actually, speak out and advocate for the healthcare in our community, again, things aren't going to change because either we don't know that there's an issue or we're just going to keep going with what we have, stay in budget, all of those different types of things until things start to change. And again, whether there have been a number of deaths because of this, I don't know, but that's where things are going, is people's lives are going to be in danger or lost because we don't have the services, because we aren't staffed properly. And so, yes, I would strongly encourage anybody that's went through the same situation to write a letter to all of those parties to ensure that at least a voice is being heard so that hopefully we can have the change to have proper care in our community.
All right, Austin. Well, thank you so much for sharing your story. I really appreciate it. And thanks just for coming forward and letting everybody know what happened and how they can hopefully make some change there. I really appreciate speaking to you today, and hopefully we can see some change in the future.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks very much. The last thing I just wanted to note was I want to reiterate that I received amazing care from everybody at the Lloydminster Hospital, from the EMS staff, from the staff at North Battleford Hospital. This has nothing to do with the staff that I worked with and went through all of my emergencies with. All of them were amazing. This issue is literally just about proper staffing to ensure that we can have the care that we need.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Austin, again for speaking with me. And let's hope that you coming forward and others will make the change that needs to happen.
Awesome. Thanks very much.
A proposed class action lawsuit has been launched claiming Loblaws, Sobeys, and Walmart Canada are misrepresenting the weight of meat products. The lawsuit filed in Vancouver alleges grocers are using deceptive means that violate federal and provincial regulations by including packaging weight in the price of raw and cooked meat products. The suit, which still needs to be certified by a judge, is seeking punitive damages due to the alleged deception. That's all for news. Sports is next, but first here's a look at your closing market.
Today's oil prices are brought to you by First General Services.
The Lakeland Rustlers curling teams are back in action after the Christmas break and are preparing for another regional event this weekend. Our Thomas Wildman has more.
The Lakeland Rustlers have 3 curling teams with men's, women's, and a mixed team that compete at 2 regionals where the teams with the best records qualify for the ACAC Championship. The first regional was back in 2024, and all 3 teams were successful.
So far, so good. But our first event in Kamloops, of course, in December. We came out of there with a 3-1 record, putting us tied for first.
Well, so far we've curled 1 regional, and I think we did pretty good. Like, we didn't come out on top, but our bond really grew then, and I think we're really strong now going to the next one.
It started off really good. Like, we didn't win as many games as we wanted, but we all had fun, and like, I really like these girls' attitudes and how much they really do love curling. And I don't know, they kind of show how much fun it is to be on a team that everyone gets along on.
All of the teams were working on specific skills that they felt they lacked in the first tournament to be ready for the winter regional coming up.
We're working on stuff that they feel they would need to improve on. So they get to pick 1 or 2 things, and that's what we'll keep working on. Otherwise, it's all about team play and pride and everything else that way. But today's a specific one because we leave in a couple of days. So we want to make sure whatever they feel they need extra work on, we're working on that.
Helping the players on the coaching staff this year are 2 former Rustlers curling alumni, which sets up a bright future for the program in the eyes of head coach Makachuk.
So this year, my one assistant has resigned, so my daughter Lindsay is on with us now, and Brandon Cookson's been with us for quite a while. He's an alumni, played 5 years for us. So we have a very strong coaching staff here, which is fun to be with, and a bright future for Lakeland College. 2 ex-alumni now playing, coaching, and they're ready to take over anytime now. One day I might have to just step aside myself.
Thomas Wildman, Primetime, local news.
Golden Ticket Sports will be running some basketball programs for kids to get involved in. I chatted with a coach for Golden Ticket Sports to find out more details. I'm joined here today with Marissa Lindquist, who is a coach for Golden Ticket Sports. So thank you for joining me today, Marissa.
Thank you for having me.
So before we get into what we are going to be talking about, why don't you just tell me a little bit about Hoop Factory and its program?
Yeah, so here in Lloydminster, we have Hoop Factory, where we run a bunch of programming for Golden Ticket Sports. And the program we're going to be talking a little bit more about today is our Lloydminster minor basketball programming, targeted at kids in kindergarten through grade 7.
So now this program is coming to Lloydminster. So why don't you just give everyone some information on that?
Yeah, so this Lloydminster minor basketball programming is, like I said, targeted at kids in kindergarten through grade 7. And is a great way for kids to get introduced to the sport of basketball, and those that have already been playing basketball for years in the past to continue growing and developing their skills. We'll start from like some basic like fundamentals of the game of basketball with some of the younger kids, even just like the concepts of like throwing and catching and stopping in different movement patterns. And then as the kids get older, teaching them a little bit more concepts about the game of basketball, and then get them all starting to play.
And obviously, physical education is a part of daily life, and it is very important. So how important would you say it is to put on a program like this for physical education and also for kids to have fun?
I think physical education is super important. And I think the really cool thing about a program like this one is you have an opportunity to learn a new sport, learn some new skills, get in that physical education. And then it's also a great way to like meet other friends or have that social aspect as well. So they get to be active, they get to be in the gym, sometimes when it's cold, right? Space for them to run around and do something for an hour. But there's also like the social aspect as well to it, which I think is just as important.
Yes, and those are all very good points. But other than the physical education aspect of it, why should kids decide to take part in these programs?
Yeah, I think sport is such a unique thing in that it has both like those physical benefits for you, but also like mental benefits for you as well in terms of you're meeting new people, you're learning new skills. Maybe you're stepping outside of your comfort zone in terms of activity. But then of course, just like we all know, like it's super important for kids to be physically active. And so this is a great way for them to do something physically active, maybe learn something new and meet people as well.
And for anyone looking to find more information on the program and see what it's all about, where can they go?
If you're looking for more information about any of the programs that we run at Hoop Factory with Golden Ticket Sports, you can check out Hoop Factory on Instagram and Facebook, and you'll be able to find more information there.
Awesome. So you kind of mentioned at the start, you're not sure about more programs being held in the future, but is that something you'd like to do more of in 2025?
Our hope is to continue to offer programming for kids here in Lloydminster and surrounding area throughout 2025. Unfortunately, the registration for Lloydminster Minor Basketball is closed, but like I said, we will most likely be having camps over like February and Easter break and in the summer, and then hopefully some other programming here in the future.
And final question I have for you, you might have said it already, but how long is this program going to be going on for?
The Lloydminster Minor Basketball program that we are running will take place for 7 weeks, 7 Saturday, 1-hour sessions. And then any other programming that we run in the future just varies a little bit depending on the timing. Camps usually take place during the week, or other things, longer, shorter time frames, just depending on what the season for it is.
Okay, well, I look forward to hearing more from you guys in the future and appreciate you taking the time to do this today. Thanks again, Marissa.
Yes, thank you so much for your time.
And now let's take a look at your egg prices. We'll now take a look at the weather forecast for the next few days. Thursday, windy, a little snow in the afternoon there, 65% chance, high of +3 and a low of -15. Friday, windy and really cold, high of -13 and a low of -27. And Saturday, not very nice at all, sunny, very cold, high of -23. And yeah, with the low there is a -27. So we're kind of losing those warm temperatures, as you can see. And that is all the time we have today for Primetime Local News. Thank you for watching and have a great day.